Hello, I'm Eric Aldrich, and I am here to welcome you to our science fiction course. In this video, I'm just going to go over some of the expectations I have of you, give you an idea of what sort of content and activities you're going to encounter in the course, and I guess that's basically it. So to get us started, this course is primarily facilitated through D2L, and the content that you will need to respond to is all on D2L. If you are new to D2L, I suggest that you spend some time poking around our course shell, looking at the resources that I've provided for you, kind of getting an understanding of how the course is structured. Of course, we're going to talk a lot about science fiction literature. Each week you will have a reading, it'll be a story, and that will be about half of your assignment each week. The other half of your assignment will be to respond to some aspect of science fiction culture. I want you to come to an understanding of science fiction that is broader than just the stories. There is a whole genre of movies that are science fiction. There is an influence of science fiction in art and fashion. Of course, many video games are science fiction as well. So I want you to understand sci-fi, the literature, in the context of sci-fi, the culture, or the subculture. So hopefully you will enjoy both types of assignments, the ones that ask you to respond to the stories and the ones that ask you to respond to some aspect of science fiction culture. In order to be counted present for the week, you have to participate in the activities. So if you don't participate in whatever the activity is for the week, you do not get attendance credit. You may be counted as absent from the course, or you will be counted as absent from the course if you don't post on time. The due date for the assignments will vary by semester. I usually use Fridays at midnight. That gives you the whole week, and including the previous weekend, to complete the work. The course is not go at your own pace. Each week is an individual unit, and the course proceeds 1 week at a time. And so if you are expecting to, go at your own pace, you are not able to do that because the course is often interactive. You'll have to work with your classmates on some of these assignments, though not all. I do very much encourage you to interact with your classmates, to comment on each other's posts, to point out things that you notice that someone might be interested in. And so I facilitate most of the work that you do for the class through discussion boards. That way you can interact with each other if you would like to in some instances, and in other instances you will be required to. I ask that you combine your response for the post that will write something about the story and the post that will respond to some aspect of science fiction culture. I ask that you put them in one document, or really not a document, in one post, and post them both at the same time. I can read them both at the same time and respond to them easily that way. And it's nice to kind of break it up, to read one post about literature and one post about culture, one after the other. It gets a little bit hard to focus when you read all of them at once, like all the story posts and then all the culture posts. So I like to go back and forth, and it gives me two things to think about. So if you are just getting into the course, go to this folder that is labeled syllabus. That will have the course schedule. It will tell you what the various assignments are worth. It'll talk about the course expectations, the due dates for the work. It'll give you my contact information. If you want to email me for some reason, my email is ealdrich@pima.edu. I do have a phone number listed on the syllabus, but that goes to my office where a machine will answer, and then it will record a WAV file of your message and email it to me. So you can skip that whole part just by emailing me in the first place. I do respond pretty quickly during the week, Monday through Friday. I'm a quick responder on email. I want you to be able to keep going. I don't want you getting hung up on something. On the weekends, I can't guarantee a response because I may not be in town. I may not have access to a computer. I do try to respond during the weekends, but plan your work accordingly. If you email me Monday through Friday, you will get a response. If you email me Saturday or Sunday, you might get a response on Monday. The other aspect of the course that I guess we could discuss is the content. This course is designed to be interesting to someone who hasn't really read science fiction before. We talk about some of the basics, like what is science fiction, what's the genre about. Some of the stories that we read are by notable, well-known authors like Arthur C. Clarke. And so if you're someone who's never explored science fiction and you haven't read science fiction literature before, hopefully you'll find this course provides you with a foundation to not only read more, but understand more about the science fiction subculture as it exists in our broader culture. If you are someone who has been reading and enjoying science fiction for a long time, I also tried to design the course to be interesting to you. So some of the stories that I've chosen are not the most famous stories out there. Some of them are great stories, well-known stories, highly regarded works, but maybe ones you haven't read before. And the culture posts are open-ended enough that if you are a novice, you can respond meaningfully. If you are someone who's been reading sci-fi for years, you can also respond meaningfully. You just adapt your level of complexity. I guess maybe you're interested in a little bit about me. I teach writing and literature at Pima Community College. And before that, I received a PhD in literature from Arizona State University. I've been teaching college for a long time. At the time of me recording this video, it's been 15 years. I've been doing this science fiction course for 7 years. It's run almost 20 times now, and everyone usually seems to enjoy it. I've been using the same videos for years. This is my updated version of those videos. I'm also a writer and a book critic. I write science fiction. You can find some of my original work on my website. If you're interested in that, I can provide you with the information to find those things. As I said, I'm also a book critic, and some of the books that I review are science fiction. I am a lifelong science fiction fan. My father owned a barbershop, and he would have a magazine subscription. And when you own a small business like that, they let you pick out a bunch of different magazines, and then they send you the magazines for your waiting room. And so he was a sci-fi fan. He would, of course, order Sports Illustrated and whatever the business magazines were. But then he would include things like Omni or Analog. And when he was done with them at the waiting room, when the next issue came in, he would bring the previous edition back home where I would read it myself, or sometimes my parents would read it with me. So I've been reading and enjoying science fiction my entire life. I do write some science fiction. I do review science fiction books. And I've been in a long-running science fiction book club with one of my colleagues at Pima Community College, Kylie Seegers, and a few other friends where we meet monthly to discuss usually one novel and a few short stories, sometimes 2 short novels. But I'm very much ingrained in this culture. I think about sci-fi a lot. I really enjoy it. If I have a weakness where you may be able to teach me more about science fiction, it's probably in gaming and developments in how sci-fi is reflected in video games and in gaming. I'm not very good at video games and I don't have a lot of time, so despite my interest in them, I'm not as knowledgeable as I would like to be. So teaching this course offers me the opportunity to learn from you as well. I think that's about all I want to include in this first video. If you have any questions or need clarification, just send me an email, contact me through D2L. To get started, like I said, read the syllabus, and then you'll go to the week 1 folder. I ask you to introduce yourself, and then there's a couple activities. You'll be reading 9 Billion Names of God, a very short story by Arthur C. Clarke, and you will be responding to a definition of science fiction question. How do you define science fiction, and why do you define it that way? All right, well, I look forward to reading your work, talking about sci-fi with you this semester, and I hope you enjoy it.